go, guys. There's our char cloth. Check it out. These are the rolls that I've been telling you guys about. A lot of people don't know how to do this. A lot of people just cut them into squares. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to go over on how to make char cloth. So the first thing that you guys will need is some sort of metal tin. This is an old cookie tin. This is for making a lot of char cloth. And then this is a good one for like bush crafting. This is like a little Altoids tin. Fits in your pocket. You put a survival kit in it. So all you're going to need is strips of jean fabric. And these have already been cut into strips. You can cut these into squares. I like to cut them into strips because you can roll them and make huge rolls of char cloth. So get our strip, cut it to, I don't know, this is probably 15 inches. You don't even need it that big. And then just roll it. And you want to roll this fairly tightly. Okay. Doesn't have to be perfect. And you got to roll like that, right? And we're just going to put it here in our tin. And we're going to do a few of those. Alright, so we got our third one. For our Altoids tin, because it's a smaller container, we are, instead of rolling, we are going to cut these into squares, okay? And you can cut these again at whatever size you want. I just roughly cut them. They're probably 2 inches by 2 inches. And I'll do 6 patches or something like that. Okay, and we're going to use this. We'll use that scrap for later. We're going to use this stuff for some of our future fire making videos on how to use char cloth. So we just want to just stack these in there nicely, just on top of each other. Make sure that no thread is hanging out of the container, because if that catches fire, you can actually destroy your char cloth. So we want to pack it in there nicely like that. Okay, and this is char cloth. You guys can do this with multiple other materials like fat wood and different things like that, leaves even. So we're going to put the lids on our tins here. And one thing is a lot of people will say when making char cloth that you have to poke a hole in the top. When I make char cloth, I always poke a hole at the top. So I just put it right up here in one of the corners. Just a little knife hole. Not much. Just a little mark right there. I don't put it in the middle because basically how char cloth is made, you have all these gases inside of there being heated up, and it's flooding out the entire area. There's no oxygen, and that's what gets you your charred cloth, right? The absence of oxygen. So whatever's charring can't catch fire. So we put these little holes at the top. So when you do put them in the fire, some of the gases can escape, and you can actually tell when your char cloth is done by the look of the container. What I mean by that is, and I'll show you here in the fire, it will start out smoking, and then you will actually have a torch effect of a flame, like a blowing flame. It'll sound like a blowtorch. And it will slowly trickle down into a birthday candle type flame until it goes out. And when it goes out, you will pull it off the fire, lay it to cool. Do not open it immediately, or your char cloth will catch fire and you will waste all of it. So you'll put that to the side for an X amount of time. I like to wait about 30 minutes because that's like a for sure time. And then open it, and we'll have our char cloth and we'll test it. So let's go ahead and find a spot here in the fire to put these in. Alright guys, so we got our fire going. It's not a great big behemoth of a fire. You don't need a great big behemoth of a fire. But what we do have is some hot coals. And we've put 2 fresher pieces of wood up there to kind of be our tabletop for our containers. And we're going to start showing you the steps of how to lay it in the fire and what it's going to look like as the process goes on and what happens when it looks like when it's done. So we're going to go ahead and place these in the fire. I want to put these somewhere where they're going to get really hot. So I'll put them towards the middle here. Okay. And we can stoke up our fire around that if we want to, but I think for the sake of what we have, this is going to be perfect. So one thing I can say is there is no certain time stamp for how to make char cloth. It really depends on the type of container you have, how much you've put in there, and how tight it is. So basically, it's a waiting game, and you basically just have to look at it by what the container and the flame is doing to tell you when it's done. So as you can see, our big blue container is starting to smoke out of the hole that we poked. It's getting pretty hot. The small little tin one, not quite yet. You'll start to see that smoke start to turn a yellowish color, a yellowish tinge. Basically what that means is that it's really starting to work. It's getting rid of all those imperfections, chemicals, dyes. If it's damp, anything like that, it's getting rid of all that. So if we light that with a flame, it will turn into a torch, and I will show you guys that here momentarily. You can tell that our container that is smoking over there is just lit on fire. Did you see that? The hole is going to start lighting on fire as soon as a flame touches it because the fumes that are coming out of there are flammable. Now, if you can see on the cookie tin at the right hand corner, that smoke has started to become a flame. And as soon as that flame starts to turn into a candle style flame, very tiny, and blows itself out, that is how we will be able to know when our stuff is done. You want to make sure that your containers that you're choosing are sealable, but do not have like a rubber seal. Okay. You want to use a steel tin, doesn't have to be stainless or anything special. I do not recommend using aluminum. You can use a pop can for this method and cover the hole with the pop can with mud or anything. But the problem with aluminum is when it gets hot and it does not have a liquid like water or something to wick that heat, it will dissipate and just completely dissolve the can into nothing. So this is why you choose a steel container. Again, an Altoids tin is perfect, and that metal cookie tin is even better because now we can make large amounts of char cloth to make fires in the future without having to use that much more effort. Okay, this is a survival skill that you definitely need to have. So as you can see, our tins are both catching flame pretty good now, and you can see that the torch effect that is happening is getting stronger. Okay, the flames on our tins are probably 3 to 4 inches high. So this is like the peak time that all of those fumes are being lit and dissolved and wicking away from our fabric to make our char cloth. Another thing about making char cloth, guys, is you want to pick a spot in the fire that you're not going to move it. Okay, like I said, it's okay to stack wood around it, but it's not okay to constantly move your tin. You want to put your tin in a place that a flame can easily get to it to heat it up quickly and to light those fumes on fire. It's important to light the fumes on fire so you can help time how long and when your char cloth is finally complete. So you do not want to try to move around your tin a whole lot. You really just want to pick a spot and let it cook. You can see that our Altoids tin flame is starting to get quite small. This is what I was talking about a candle flame. If you'll notice, it's in its stages of getting ready to blow out at any moment. The second that that blows out, I'm not going to open it. And see, the Altoids tin flame just burned out. So I'm going to go over there and I'm going to pick it out of the fire and lay it off to the side to cool off. notice how the Altoids tin is still smoking, just slightly, okay? But it's not coming out of the openings anymore. Once again, you do not want to open your container immediately, because if you do, you're going to expose oxygen, and it will immediately start to char the cloth. It will catch fire, it will start to smolder, you will ruin your entire char cloth. So like I said, once you pull it out of the fire, make sure you place it somewhere, and you can't go wrong with having a set time. Like I said, I give it about 30 minutes before I open the tin. Once this other one's done and we pull it out, we'll open them together and we'll go over and test our char cloth. This is what I was meaning about the strength of the flame and the size of the container and how much char cloth you are making. So obviously, the larger container with more char cloth is still going strong. It is not anywhere close to going out yet. But the smaller container that we had of the Altoids tin had less char cloth, it's less space. So obviously it got done quicker. This is why it's hard to time how long char cloth takes to make. So it's all about the container size and the amount of char cloth you put in the container. That's why the foolproof method of seeing the flame and watching it go to a torch, to a candle flame, to nothing is how you time your char cloth correctly. As you guys can see, the cookie tin is starting to turn into a candle flame. It's starting to get smaller and smaller. It's got less force on it. The edges of the can have stopped catching fire, which means that the fumes that are in there are becoming very few and far between. You can see exactly what I mean about how that turns into a candle flame. Anything that's in there is burning off right now until that thing burns out. The Altoids tin took about 5 minutes, and usually a large tin like that usually will take about 15 minutes if you got a good hot fire. Alright, so our cookie tin just went out, so we're going to pull it out of the fire now and lay it next to our Altoids tin. Careful that you do not open the lid. Okay, we're going to let that sit for 30 minutes. I don't care how big the container is or how much you've got in there, I always give it 30 minutes. So here are our two tins here, guys. So the cookie tin that we just pulled out, you can see is smoking just a little bit. That's probably just the residue in the can burning off just a little bit more. The flame did go out, so it is done. This is how you can tell when your char cloth is done. So we're going to let this cool off for about 30 minutes, and we're going to open it up, and we're going to take our ferro rod, and we're going to test our char cloth. Alright guys, so our char cloth is complete. We have both of our containers here. We have our small survival Altoids tin, and we have our larger cookie tin. Now we've allowed this stuff to sit for 30 minutes, which is our waiting period, and we have a small tinder bundle here. We're going to pick a piece of char cloth and test it with our ferro rod. So let's try the Altoids tin. This tin makes the most sense to carry on your person because you can use it as a little survival kit. As you guys can see there, we do have charred cloth. So we are going to take a piece of that charred cloth and lay it right here in our bird's nest. Okay. Take our ferro rod. Just like in the last video that I showed you guys on how to use the ferro rod. If you guys don't know how to use a ferro rod, check it out. We're going to take the back of our knife. Alright, looks like we caught. Guys, just the tiniest spark will catch char cloth. Look at this. You guys see it? See it? See it burning? Starting to smoke a little bit. Guys see that? Alright. Wow, we've even already started a little fire there. Stuff is just begging to catch fire. There we go, guys.